Georgia has had 2 football players arrested and suspended in the last week. Wide receiver Nitro Tuggle, offensive lineman Marcus Easley, and some details have now come out about Nitro Tuggle. More details have emerged since we've last reported about Marcus Easley, and Kirby Smart has made a statement, so I'm going to bring all of that to you right now. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post reporting the news that you don't want to be just in general, but especially not when we're talking about sports here, and we're trying to talk about football for the most part, but got to bring you this side of it. I want to bring you these details as a report has come out. Nitro Tuggle was going 107 miles per hour on the Athens Loop, which has a 65 mile per hour speed limit. When I find myself going a little bit over that 65 on the loop, I find it to feel like it's pretty fast, especially when it's chaotic out there. This happened around 10:30 at night. So these details are emerging, and when Tuggle was pulled over, he almost, he didn't pull over in the right spot, I guess, is what the report was saying, and that he almost exited the vehicle without even putting it in park. That's all of the things coming from the arresting officer's perspective, right? Driving that Dodge Charger. So there's that perspective of it. With Easley, he crashed his vehicle into an apartment complex, right? So just kind of reckless driving all around. We know that this has been an issue, not just this past season, but the past few years for Georgia. And I've already kind of gone through the lists of arrests and stops and things like that in the most recent video about this topic, but I want to bring you Kirby Smart's quote about it as well. I will have that up for you on the screen here as I read it. We talked to him on Tuesday night, and he addressed a few things. Obviously, this is one of the things that he has to address. This is what he said. Yeah, disappointed, obviously, in those 2 young men and the decision-making process for each one. Both of them are younger players and have made crucial mistakes. As far as the process we followed, it's not been several months. It's been several years in terms of defensive driving courses, having players ride and learn how to drive, just like my 2 kids did with the driver's service. Josh Brooks, the athletic director, has done a tremendous job meeting with every player, and we've had several speakers come in, and we continue to educate. We're not going to stop at that. It's very unfortunate that, one of those young men got his driver's license within 1 month of that happening at 18 or 19 years old. And it's amazing how many kids come to school now without a driver's license. So it's no excuse, but one of those things we will continue to educate and discipline our guys on and try to correct it. So that is what Kirby Smart had to say about it. Last week I talked a little bit about what he said after Daniel Harris was arrested this past season. But at the end of the day, this is a problem, and to an extent, Kirby is responsible, right? And he is like the mentor, the coach of these young, not just football players, but young men, right? And when the parents let them choose Georgia, when they let them choose these colleges, they're letting them choose the people and the people that are teaching them. In terms of Kirby, he's detested it over and over again in the media. I imagine behind closed doors at the facility, he's had an issue with it, right? And clearly, this is something that they've addressed, and this is something that they are working on over and over again. It doesn't quite make complete sense why it would keep happening, especially when, like I said in the past video about this, someone died, and multiple people died that were a part of the program. A football player died. Their brother, their teammate, their guy. Now wasn't either of these guys, Marcus Easley and Nitro Tuggle. It wasn't a teammate with him and Devin Willick, but people have gotten hurt. People have gone to jail, and there have been lawsuits, and so this is something that is a serious issue that for some reason is just kind of bleeding throughout the football program and doesn't seem to stop. When you talk about the NIL era and you talk about the fast cars, right? These guys are driving the Dodge Chargers, Lamborghinis, Challengers, Mustangs, Camaros. They're driving all sorts of cars that are loud and fast and cool. And, that goes into, I think, the psyche of a driver when you've got that vehicle. And I think that it probably goes into just, the money aspect in the NIL area. I kind of am talking in circles the last minute here, but I'll try to ring it back to the topic and say something that Kirby was talking about this spring is how if things are about the NIL area and about the money, then none of these players are going to be successful. Well, I mean, that's a very broad statement, right? A lot of these players that are about money are successful, but he means his people. He means his people, and he means with character. And he's been talking about how, especially with the freshmen coming in, not only are they out of shape, but they're just not being quite receptive to very difficult coaching. And it's something that he sees happen kind of when freshmen come in, but he seems to be a little bit more frustrated about this particular thing than he normally is. And he thinks that young people are becoming more and more entitled. And part of that is because of the money. And part of that is because, hey, if I'm on Georgia, I'm a 4 or 5 star who's not getting the snaps or not getting the attention or the playing time I feel like I deserve. Hey, I could just walk out the door, and I'm sure that there's at least a handful of programs out there that are not only willing to take me and accept me and let me be a part of their roster, but will let me start and will pay me to do so. So that is kind of what Kirby is concerned with. And it makes things more difficult to regulate. He not only does he have to be, first of all, a program leader and a face of a program. There's a big aspect to that in being a head coach. Coaching football, managing a staff. There's a lot that goes into being a college coach, but now you've kind of, if you don't have someone just acting as a GM for a team, those types of responsibilities fall on the coach's shoulders. So that happens too. I know that this video is about the arrests and about the suspension, and I brought you that quote, but just kind of coinciding with how things are changing. And if this problem hasn't already stopped, why should we expect it to stop in the future? Now, what is, obviously people dying and lawsuits and all that, I guess hasn't been enough for these players to realize, hey, there's a little bit of a target on your back with the police, right? That's not me making an accusation, but it's just kind of like you've seen kind of some of the body cam footage and them talking about, hey, I arrested so-and-so player and this player and this player. When there's Dodge Chargers and all driving around and they're driving really fast, they know it's a football player and they know they're up to no good some of these times. There's a little bit of a target there. So there's that aspect of it. But maybe with Nitro Tuggle, with Marcus Easley, which I thought would happen with David Daniel Sissavant, excuse me, I couldn't think of his name for a minute. Suspensions, getting thrown off the team. Those are things that you would think, hey, direct punishments are probably the easiest way to teach these players how to do things. So I think that suspending them indefinitely, I don't know if that just means, hey, they're just not going to participate in spring practice, or hey, they'll be back in a couple of weeks. I kind of imagine that means that spring, they're just done for spring, but we haven't been able to confirm that quite yet, and that's because they probably haven't decided as a football program exactly how they're punishing these players. But when you think about it, they got an example as we made. Trevor Etienne was suspended largely because there's a program rule and there's an athletic association rule about a DUI-related arrest and a suspension. So that's a little bit different, especially when it didn't happen in season, happened far before the season. With Etienne, that was part of why he was suspended against Clemson. This is a little bit different. Now, if the problem persists and it happens again and it's a charge that's bad like this, like going 100 miles per hour or DUI or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets thrown off the team in the future. That's just kind of my take on it. Trying to deliver you some of the news. Not fun news to talk about, but something we got to talk about. Thanks for watching.